You're listening to Happy Hour Hustle from the creative geniuses here at 834. We're funny, informative, and we swear. We talk all things marketing, communication, small business, plus we offer up hot takes on our industry and whatever else we feel like talking about. So, grab your drink of choice. It's always 5 o'clock at 834. And crank it up. Hey everyone, Maddie here. This episode is a great one. Kim is sitting down with Fiona McPherson Grant, who's founder of FMG DataWorks. That's where she helps healthcare organizations get way more value out of their data. I'll let her explain the rest. After more than 20 years in hospital IT, Fiona decided to launch her own business. Her and Kim are going to get into why she decided to make that leap, how she got to this point, and a lot more fun stuff. Here's Kim with Fiona.
Welcome everyone to Happy Hour Hustle. I am so excited to have our guest Fiona on today, who's going to be talking about her business that, has been launched recently-ish. Like, that's a word. Don't question me. It is. And before we kind of jump into it, Fiona, I have to ask you, what is your favorite happy hour drink?
I kind of like champagne. I like to always have a bottle of champagne in the fridge because you never know. Like, life dishes out celebrations, and I kind of want to be ready.
That might be the best answer ever. Okay, but what kind of champagne? Because the cheap stuff gives you a headache. So
oh yeah, no, it's got to be like dry. The too sweet ones, like the proseccos, that's like straight to the head.
Unless you throw orange juice in it. So
which is good.
Yeah.
But I have these really cool, very old vintage champagne, like the bowls, not the flutes.
Yeah.
They have the whole stem, and you can see the bubbles like floating up. Totally love those. They're always super fun.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that.
And you're just like our breath of fresh air. Like, you're just like sunshine in a bottle, kind of like champagne. See what I did there? Okay. Yeah. So we met, I guess it was a while back, and it was through Coffee Circle, which is an amazing local event that brings together women that work within, the tech space. And it can be, anything. In fact, we have one tomorrow. Are you gonna, will I see you there?
Do?
Yeah, I know. I'll forward you the email after this.
Okay, cool.
But okay, so let's talk a little bit about your background. And specifically, like, first we should acknowledge that you have an accent. So you probably are not from Michigan. So maybe you want to give people and I also didn't say your last name, McPherson. So, and I said that correctly, right?
Well, McPherson Grant. I've got all the names.
Oh, so, wow. I mean, the more you have, the more important you are, is what I always.
Yes. Well, you got to fill in all the boxes on all the forms.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's give a little background on who you are and where you're technically from, and then tell us about FMG Data.
Yeah, sure. So yes, Fiona McPherson Grant. I'm from New Zealand, so totally for a snowy day that we're having here in December. It's summertime in New Zealand, so it's a bit of a world of contrast. But I came to the States in my very late 20s sailing on boats. I was a sailing instructor for the American Girl Scouts, and then I worked for a year on like a tall ship schooner as a cook. And so I totally got to know Michigan from the water, like up north, just sailing up to Escanaba and over to Milwaukee. And then I ended up kind of staying. I married the relief captain's son, and then stayed. So we're no longer together, but I have a son, and who's 20 now. But that was kind of the thing that kept me here. It did. So I'd been working in banking and finance IT in New Zealand for the Bank of Scotland. And so I kind of knew I needed an IT kind of real job, got to get back to the real job. I'd taken 2 years off to kind of bum around, so mid-early career, so I had to settle down. And so I came down to Grand Rapids to work at Old Kent, and then they sold to Fifth Third. It was right around that time.
Boy, do I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I would joke, hey, I'm going to work at Metro, which is right, walking distance from my house, right? But of course I knew no one there and had nothing to do with healthcare. But I just kind of I think I manifested it into being. So was there for 13 years, and then went across the spectrum and was there for another 10. So
don't mind Joey.
Definitely.
If anybody's watching this, Joey Doberman has had surgery
Oh,
and has a Conan that she now uses as a battery ram. And so I'm just getting hit with it as I chat with Fiona. So that's a good time. That's not annoying at all. I'm very ready for this to come off. Okay, so I first of all I have a few questions. Do you watch, have you ever watched Below Deck?
yes,
Okay.
hilarious. Yeah.
Okay.
There's
Like
a lot of
I
drama on boats. You put a lot of people in a really small space, stuff's going to happen, man.
Yeah, it's there's gonna be drama. I
There is.
actually pretty sure I introduced Maddie to it when we were out in DC for a client. And I was like, if you're bored, you could just watch this and then you'll lose pretty much your entire day. Because it's addicting. So I'd ask
Yes.
that. And then how do so obviously you sailed on the ocean.
Yeah.
How do the Great Lakes compare?
It's kind of crazy. When you're out in the middle of the lake and you can kind of look around, you can't see land. It feels, yes, like you're totally in the ocean.
Hmm.
But like you don't get that salty smell. I
Mm,
think the breezes are different. The water kind of rolls in a different way. But Lake Michigan's spectacular. It's
yeah,
just fabulous.
it is.
Yeah. I did a sail across to Sheboygan, Wisconsin, not last summer, the summer before, with a bunch of Sea Scout kids. They were like, I don't know, 18 to
Yeah.
20. I think we had six kids and two adults. It was amazing. They had to like plan the trip and organize it as part of like the Eagle Scout or Sea Scouts. And so cool just to kind of like watch them have that experience of crossing the lake, for the first time.
My husband did it once on a bachelor trip, and it was a party, a bachelor party trip, and
Yeah.
they were in a boat that was not big enough, should not have been used to cross over to Wisconsin. So they lived, but they're morons. So they did not have anyone experienced with them,
Oh,
such as yourself.
yeah.
But okay,
Oh,
so you
yeah.
recently, let's talk a little bit about your background, because you went from banking and then you were in healthcare, which is, I
Yeah.
imagine, is very different here in the States than it is in New
Oh,
Zealand.
yeah.
Hmm.
For sure. Yes. I mean, I grew up in a public health country, right? So, healthcare just sort of happened. It was seamless and easy, and a lot of it was
Not here.
invisible. But here, it's a full body contact sport. Like you
Yes.
are in,
It's like
you're like,
rugby. It's like
yeah,
playing the All Blacks. Yeah. Hmm.
price checking, you're looking for your providers. Am I still covered? Did it get denied? And then, oops, surprise bills, the whole thing. So, yeah, you've got to commit to like looking after yourself over here. It is not for the shy. Yeah.
No, no. And
No.
ask questions, like, because,
Yeah.
the insurance companies lie. So there's
Yeah,
that.
you've got to keep all your paperwork and
Yeah.
don't be shy. Asking questions, ask your friends who have had similar things, gone through same experiences. You've got to be well informed for sure. So yeah, after like 25 years inside hospitals, a New Zealand company approached me. They were launching a health data platform. They were already very successfully globally and wanted to break into America. And after talking to them for 9 months about American healthcare and how it works, they lured me over with a job, which was so fun to like be super involved in New Zealand again, and going backwards and forwards. And I got to go down there for, a big long, 4-month trip to work for them. But they sold. And so then it was like, I don't want to go back inside the big company again. I've kind
Yeah.
of had this taste of freedom. And I've seen and sort of learnt different things. And once you get out of that bubble, it's kind
Yeah.
of like, oh, all right, I kind of want to see where this is going.
Yeah.
With AI exploding, it just seemed the right time for someone
Yeah.
who knows about healthcare data to kind of get out there and get into the mess and see what kind of space you can wiggle out. Yeah.
So let's talk about your business, obviously, because you are now
Yeah.
a small business owner. And boy,
I
is that a
am.
fun trip, fun
It
journey.
took me a yeah.
So let's talk about what it is that you do and then why you kind of decided to make the leap.
Yeah. So I am definitely like more tuned in and aware about healthcare data and analytics, but really a lot of times data and analytics are data and analytics.
Yeah.
But my work has really been around that data space of healthcare. So data strategy, helping people write the AI data strategy, if they're a healthcare organization, some like webinars or ghostwriting, like educational kind of
Yeah.
side of how to position yourself, how to talk about your data stories,
Yeah.
how to find the value in the investments you've already got,
Yeah.
and maybe translate them in a new way. I think healthcare IT is, can be very tech focused and kind of nerdy in the background. And having the storytelling, right? And the writing and the creative
Yeah.
side to kind of tease out that work and like
Yeah.
showcase it. Those
Yeah.
good stories, they've got to be told. And I think a lot around like the AI space, I've been really thinking about like the value of all these tools and where do they sit in that whole ecosystem? And then
Yeah.
how do we talk about them and build trust, talk about the value and like, how like, because you've got to go right to your boss and like ask for money for a budget for
Yeah.
this work. And if you can't like talk about it and explain what it's going to do, how it's going to work, in not the dry technical way,
Yeah.
those stories just get lost. So
Well,
yeah.
and I think it's interesting too, like you mentioned AI, and I think a lot of
Yeah.
companies still, I mean, still, and I think this is going to be, this is going to happen for a long time. They don't know how to integrate it into
Yeah.
their organizations or into their existing systems. And
Yeah.
like the healthcare industry or anybody working in that space, it's an entire beast.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, so I
And
think it's
disruption is
yeah,
not cool. You can't disrupt what's already humming along.
yeah,
There's too many downstream effects to the littlest change. So I just did this really cool webinar for the healthcare tech incubator of the New Zealand government. And I talked about the analogy of like the pilot fish next to the big shark. I said, if you're launching your product in America, market is full of sharks, these big vendors. And
yeah.
you've got to be the little pilot fish. You got to help them work better and, kind of just work around the edges because you can't come in and saying, I'm going to replace the shark because it's not.
No, because then the big dogs or the big fish or the sharks will eat you or push you out. So, and I think it's, going back to your point, like the storytelling, I mean, that's a big piece too. Like we connected
Mhm.
around, when I was talking about personal branding and how important it is that, that people invest in that, especially, invest in it, understand it, realize how it can, would you,
Yeah.
sorry, like I'm being
What a
attacked by
cutie.
the dog with the cone, but understand how that's a differentiator for them. And
Oh
I
yeah.
tell business owners all the time, like you have to market the face behind your company because people
Mhm.
do business with
With
people,
people.
not logos, not company
Yeah.
organization names, but with
Mhm.
people. So
Yeah.
you show your value by like talking about what it is that you do and presenting it in a different way. And
Mhm.
you did that. You made the leap and you have figured a way to like stand out. And I want you to talk a little bit about that and how that has,
Yeah.
how that's helped you as you've entered this space or this
Oh, for
small
sure.
business ownership space.
It's still weird to think about myself in that way. But it's true. I mean,
That is true.
um,
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, I think um, being in IT, I was often the only woman in the room, especially back in the day, right? Like
Yeah.
I have come through the ranks from my 20s, and it's different now. There's a whole lot more, young girls in the mix that are making their way in IT, but it just wasn't that way back in the day. So I've always kind of leaned into who I am, right? I would wear the dress, and maybe it was a bright color. I'm not going to wear the gray pantsuit and just kind of like pretend I'm, just lurking in the corner. So I think that's the same energy I think I've brought to this because that's who I am. It's you've got to show people who you are. Um, yes, draw on your experiences, tell the stories, and then make the connections between that big, complicated, behemoth technical project and how it actually impacts people's lives
Yeah.
or makes somebody's workday better. Like that's the value of those tools. Like you can talk about something's faster or cheaper, but if your staff are all going home mad and quitting their jobs because the tool sucks, then that's not helpful either. So I think that's always been my differentiator is seeing those other value use cases, telling the human personal story of the technical work, and then being able to present it, right? Like writing the words down and then giving talking points to your leaders to like, we want to do this thing, and then this is how you talk about it when you're in your executive meetings. Like years of being an advisor in data at Spectrum, that was a really big piece of the job. It's just preparing the leaders to go fight those fights every day. Like, how do you distill some big technical weird concept that's super back end in the cloud, data movement tools into like an actual digestible, piece of understanding where you could talk and share about it. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, it's tying like, I think people forget ultimately business is about people. And,
Yeah.
In the data space, that like sometimes I think people who work within like a tech industry can feel removed from that. And
for
the fact
sure.
is like ultimately that's one of the major, like that impacts like, whoever your customer or client is and how like if they're navigating a system. And I think, by you tying the human aspect of it back into, yeah, this is what we're doing data wise, but this is the impact it has. And I think sometimes you're too close to it. So you don't know how to package that and really like sell that up the leadership chain.
Oh yeah, you can get like super hyper narrow focused, right? And I always like to think your greatest strength is your greatest weakness. I'm a big thinker. I can like pull some technical concept apart, and that can be kind of a detriment, right? You've got to be able to haul yourself back out and go, if I've never heard of this, right? How would I talk about it? Like, what's an analogy? Like, where is that common understanding of this concept that I'll know what it means when I talk about it, right?
So
Yeah.
it's how and that's what I try and tell people when it relates to personal branding. It's how you package your message, how you package yourself. And I think I see so many, even more so now, I think authenticity is so needed because we see so much AI generated content. And it's not that AI isn't a great tool, but it also is how you use it. And you can't lose who you are or like the relatableness that can only come from your own voice or say like how you're packaging your message or your value, because you have to sell yourself just as much as you're selling your services.
Oh yeah, LinkedIn has been huge for me for helping me find my voice in that kind of bigger market, and like as an employee to as a self-employed, like the your approach to the world is different. You're kind of selling yourself for the first time in a new way, right? You really only get practice doing that maybe when you're applying for a job every few years. But then now as a consultant, you're suddenly doing that every day. So yeah, on LinkedIn, I've deliberately approached my content as an educator. Like, hey, have you seen this? This is pretty interesting. Maybe this works for you. Or, hey, you're deep in the weeds with this perspective, but hey, over here, this is the thing they're actually looking for, And so I guess that's been my approach, and yeah, that's become my personal, brand, I think, is,
You add value.
Bringing the big concept into digestible, communicatable components, and then bringing forth some ideas and perspectives that maybe people hadn't sort of seen yet. Yeah.
And that's what I say. It's based on your experience, who you are as a person, because again, people want to know who you are, because especially, where, in West Michigan, especially, like people have to feel like they know you. They have to. And I think that's across the board. Like, anytime you're doing business, because that is what differentiates you, but also there has to be a familiarity. It's a hard word. I can spell it. But I think, you want people to feel like they know you before you even do, so there is no cold calling. There is no cold approach. So, and what, is there any, when I originally presented on it and you were in the, on the group, what stuck with you about that message that I shared?
Oh, that day when I was just at that point of writing down like what my offer was. And I started with like 5 things on this big list, and it was like exhaustive. And then I was like, oh, and so then I went down to kind of 3, and I was like, okay, this is kind of really what I do.
Yeah.
And then I went to the coffee circle, and you said you need to write that like a manifesto, like it is your call to action to the world. And I was like, oh, so I came home and I'm like, I do this and this, and this is how I'm going to do it, and this is who I am.
Yep.
And it totally like forced me to, yeah, really be bold about it. You can't be wishy-washy. I kind of do this and I can do all these things. I mean, yeah, of course you can do lots of things. You've been working for like a long time, right? You've had lots of experiences.
Yeah.
But that's not really going to get you anywhere. Like you have to stand out and be brave enough, right? And courageous enough to just say, no, this is what I bring and this is who I am. And if you bring me in, like, this is what I'm going to do. But that's terrifying.
It is.
Because in the back of your mind, you think, oh, but I'm narrowing my funnel and there's not going to be many people who want that. But I really do think it's the opposite. Like, then people can see you in the wild and go, that I want one of those, you know, and then, yeah. So definitely like that advice was literally delivered on the exact right day that I needed it. And then it gave me the kind of courage to be bold enough to kind of like take that forward. Yeah.
And what, because when I saw you the next time, you were
Yeah.
like, you're crushing it. And
Just
so
quickly. Yeah.
like, tell me what the results of that have been, because like you did it. You made the
Yeah.
jump. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so proud. Like, I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, so I mean, I finished that work in January, and it was really, I sort of stared at the wall until like the end of February, like, oh God, am I going to do this or not? And then I think that coffee circle was like this first week of March, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, you really helped me sort of like get my head in the right space, and just be bold enough to give it a go. And I was working in May, you know, and I've been working all year since. I was thinking about it like last week. I have done all the things I wanted to do this year. I've got a local client, a national client, an international client. I've done a podcast, a conference, a webinar, you know, like all the things that were on my list of like all the things I wrote an ebook, you know, like all those little things I had like, oh, in my starting off this business, these are the kind of things I want to do as I explore like where I fit in and what I really like. And so, yeah, it's been a wild ride of a year, such a journey of self-discovery and yeah, the personal knowing side of it, what has been unbelievable. Like what a way to grow by doing, you know, that's kind of been my approach, I think. Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing is you got to fake it sometimes. And, you know, like that's the only thing about your personal brand that you should fake is confidence. I always say, just pretend to have the confidence of a mediocre white. That's it. Like, that's all you need. Before we wrap up, first of all, I want you to tell how people can get a hold of you. And then and then I'll ask you one more question to end with.
I always tell people to come through LinkedIn. I bought my domain name. That's hard to say. And I never set up a website. I got busy too fast and just never did it. So really LinkedIn has become my hub.
Again, that's your personal brand. They come directly to you. Your brand, your company brand is secondary, as it should be.
Yeah. So that's probably the best place to find me. Yeah.
And we will link that.
What I'm commenting and what I'm interested in, what I've been writing about. Yeah.
Okay. And then the last thing, what was when we met the next time, what was on the back of your business card?
Oh, here it is. I've got one right here.
Yeah.
So I give it to people like this, and it's like, you know, my name and my number and all the important things. And then, you know, then they always turn it over, right? It's just natural instinct. You hand it to someone and they turn it over and it's like,
yep.
I'm for hire, be quick.
I'm for hire, be quick. And how many people have commented on that because of how unique that is?
Everyone laughs every time. And so then they remember, oh, that's that girl. She, you know, you made them laugh. They're like, oh, this is different. It's unexpected. It's fun. Yeah, early on, it was like middle of March. I went to HIMSS, the big healthcare data conference. I was like, I got to think about how I fit into this. Go into the big national conference just to walk around, see what's going on. And I'd meet people, right? And I'd give them one of these. And every time they'd like, oh, that's cool.
But that's the thing. Your first impression needs to be memorable. You know, that is a huge part of your personal brand. It's how you package yourself. It's what you wear. It's what you say. It's what you give people. And everybody, like, I'm still one of those people, like, you know, people have the QR code scan. Well, then I put you in my phone and then I've lost you. I don't know who you are. But you know what I hold on to is business cards. And that it's the easiest thing to have that, you know, how do you do it differently? So and you are doing the damn thing.
Yeah, we're doing the thing. We got to do, you know, if my advice to anybody who is sitting there thinking, how do I want 2026 to be different? Oh man, just pull up your big girl panties and get on with it. Like, life is short. And if there's anything that you ever wanted to do, you just have to go for it. Like, don't listen that it's a bad economy and all the world's going to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
You know, you can still find your way and find your niche, and you know, you figure it out as you do it. You don't have to know everything going in. I didn't. I look back at the start of the year and I'm like, whoa, okay, well, I would do that differently now. But
I mean, I'm 19 years in, Fiona, and there's a lot of every day I think, why did I apply? You know, and I think you're nothing's ever going to be perfect. And the biggest thing is just do it. Like, not to steal from Nike, but it is a pretty good slogan, you know, but just do it, because you can always find a reason not to.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. You know, there's never a right time. When would be the right time? What magical, you know, event would have to happen? No, I'd still find some kind of, you know, thing to be scared of it. Nope. Gotta get in there.
Yeah, I adore you. I wish I could bottle up like that message. I mean, I try, but I wish I could bottle up you delivering that message and give that to everybody who's like on like that precipice.
The teetering.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. When I was staring at the wall the third week of January this year, going, kind of want to do it, but I mean, I'm a single parent. Like, what the hell am I thinking? Like, really? Do people like me do this? And then I was like, well, shut the hell up. You know?
Yes. Your inner voice is not your voice. I always tell people that. Like, that's not you. So ignore that, because that guy's a dick. So ignore him.
Yeah.
Like,
what's trying to keep me comfortable and safe. And I don't know if I want to be comfortable and safe anymore. I could always go get another job, right? If I really need one, I could have a job by the end of the day. It might not be the job I want, but I won't starve to death.
Yep.
So why not give it a shot? So that's what I told myself. I'll give it through the end of the year and we'll see what works out. And I think that helped me psychologically to like kind of have all right, well, it's just through the end of the year and we'll go from there. Yeah. But I've never actually applied for a permanent job. So, you know.
You're not going to, because you're killing it. And this is amazing. Yeah. So, well, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
You know, I hope everybody listening, you know, goes and we will share how you get in contact with Fiona, but I hope you go and like, you know, connect with her, because, you know, regardless of what industry you're in, I just think the bigger your networks, the more connections you have and the more we help each other. And I say this especially to women, because I think a lot of times we lack the confidence, or we feel we're safer sometimes. And I think like you have to remember that we have each other and we're all here to support you. So lean into that and reach out and talk. Do not isolate yourself. Find your network, make sure you stay part of it. And like, if, you know, like we're all here to help each other. So thank you for being on. I'm just so happy. And yeah, so everyone else, I will see you on the download.